Hello, I'm Galen Wixson, President and CEO of the Lubbock Symphony, your host for Clef Notes, an inside look at the Lubbock Symphony Orchestra. Today we have our special guest, Annie Chalex Boyle. She's the concert master of the Lubbock Symphony and also professor of violin at the Texas Tech University School of Music. Annie, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Galen.
Oh, it's great to have you with us. Before we get started, I want to remind our listeners that the Lubbock Symphony has one more concert coming up at the end of the season on June 7th. We'll present The Concert, the music of ABBA. And we'll have a tremendous group visiting us from Denmark to perform ABBA's greatest hits along with the Lubbock Symphony Orchestra. So please join us on June 7th at 7:30 p.m., all at Buddy Holly Hall. To get tickets, please check our website, lubbocksymphony.org, or give us a call, 806-762-1688. Annie, can you shed some light on the differences? Like I think you gave us some insight into that as a blending purpose, but can you give us some insight about the differences in playing as a soloist or as a chamber musician versus being a concert master in this huge symphony?
Sure. So one of the things actually that would be really fun to look at if you are ever at a Lubbock Symphony concert is to check out what the section leaders are doing, because we have our eyeballs locked on each other most of the time, which basically is like chamber music. We are making decisions together. The other section leaders look at me to see where I am in the bow, how much bow I'm using. In my left hand, I shake my left hand using vibrato, and so they're checking how much vibrato I'm using. And so that is very much, I'd say 90% of the time, we are looking at each other as well as multitasking, looking at David. So it's sort of chamber music with David in a way.
Interesting.
And if we are unified as section leaders, that information gets passed on to the sections.
Right.
So,
go ahead.
so then, as a soloist, it's very different. I would say, first of all, usually we're standing up in front of the orchestra. The soloist comes with a very clear view of the speed they want to play, the characters they want to play, and they actually can tell the conductor what they want to do. It's a very different scenario. And so also usually as a soloist, there's something more demanding about the piece in general, where the sound is going to be very different. So as a soloist, I would say I probably play double the volume of what I play sitting in orchestra.
And we have you featured on a chamber concert next year. I can't wait. This is a really unusual piece. You want to tell us about it?
Sure. So this is a piece by Michael Doherty, who is teaching up in Michigan.
Right.
And this is a piece called Ladder to the Moon, and it is for violin solo, or I should say it's a concerto for violin
It is
solo
titled concerto, right?
and wind ensemble.
Uh-huh.
And so this is odd for a violinist, and I've played this before, and it was one of the most difficult things that I've done because of two big things. One is I'm the only string player, and so my normal blending is so different that everything about how I produce string sound has gone away. I'm alone. In some ways, I think this is brilliant because it'll make me more obviously heard. The timbre is so different when I'll be playing with the wind ensemble.
Leads me to another question, though, about the different sounds that you need to make. Are you able to do that just on one instrument, or do you have multiple instruments for different purposes in your home?
So I have multiple instruments, but I have one really nice instrument.
Yeah,
And so,
really. I think.
And so I usually use a different bow with the instrument to give it a little bit more power.
All right. So for our listeners, then, how does the bow affect our sound? What's the purpose?
So the bow has horsehair on it, and we get that changed like 3-4 times a year. But the stick of the bow is very precise with where the weight of the bow is and how it handles, how it maneuvers. And so that weight could be closer to the top of the bow or the bottom of the bow, and it changes everything. And since I play an instrument that is quite old, I feel that in some ways I need to sometimes give it a little bit more power. The pattern of my violin is one of the smaller patterns made, and so it doesn't have this ginormous instant sound unless I tap into it. So by using a heavier bow, I can find that
A
sound.
heavier bow, so weight is important. But stiffness of the stick, does
Right.
that make a difference?
Right. So usually we talk about how stiff the wood is that we're using on the bow, as well as where the weight is in the bow. And this is so individual. I am 6'1", and so my arms are very long compared to my 4'11" students that maybe their violin is the same size, but they have a very different need of what they need to do with their bow arm. So
Sure.
it's something very personal. So as we're trying things out that match our bodies and our instruments, it's not a cookie cutter approach at all.
Well, and so when you're out looking at bows at the violin shop, wherever you're going, and there's hundreds of violin shops, thousands of bows, how do you narrow this choice down?
Yeah, I think it depends on the violin, the player, and the bow arm length and weight of that bow arm. So I try out bows for my students and for myself with a few things that I'm looking for before we narrow it down. So one of the first things that I'm looking for is that I don't want any surface sound. That is very important. And so that's the equivalent of, if you're driving a car and you don't have enough insulation, you hear the road underneath you.
Right.
I find that very irritating as a violinist, where I put the bow on the string and I don't just hear the pitch, I sort of hear this
Scraping,
a scrapey sound all the time. So we narrow those bows out of the way, and that's not necessarily based on cost of the bow.
Okay, but cost is key.
Cost is big.
And you're talking about something that could be 5 figures. We're at a professional level.
Easily.
Okay, so I'm going into the shop. I say, hey, Bob, I'm looking for bows. And you have 15 minutes to try bows, or is this a lengthy process?
Yeah.
Can you take bows home?
Yeah, usually I would say it's more like 2 to 3 hours to try all the bows and narrow them down. And then usually you get to take bows home for a couple weeks to try.
Okay, so you can actually get into the bow's characteristics a little bit and understand how this bow is going to operate with your
Right.
violin.
And part of the problem is if we try a bow in a small room, it will sound significantly different than in a concert hall.
One other element about the bows, I don't want to beat this dead horse,
No,
but
it's
it's so
okay.
interesting. But we use rosin on our bows. It's tree sap, basically. Does rosin make a big difference, the quality of rosin?
Absolutely. And it's so funny. Rosin is so inexpensive.
Yes. Even the most expensive rosin for you listeners out there is like 50 or 60 bucks.
Right,
And this would
right.
be, you're scratching your head going, why is it so expensive? But for most of us, it's a $15, $20, $30 purchase.
So rosin is something that we usually put on every day or every other day, depending on how many hours we're playing each day. And this adds grip to the bow hair. And if you think of what, bows have horse hair, and it's helping the little strands stand up. And so that's what makes the greatest sound, is having the right kind of rosin. And that has a lot to do with humidity, temperature, and what type of piece you're playing. If I'm playing something that is more of the Baroque time period, I'm going to have a very different sound than if I'm playing something like Stravinsky or Bartók. So the type of rosin, basically it's going to depend again on the player and what you're looking for. But I've found how you put on rosin is even more important than the rosin.
There's a way to put it on?
And so I have a lot of students that claim that they put rosin on every day, and I ask them to show me how they do it. And so what I'm listening for is that they're actually making pretty firm contact with the horsehair. And then one of my concertmaster friends, who used to be concertmaster of the Cleveland Orchestra, told me this trick that if you use a toothbrush that's never been used, a clean toothbrush, and you stick it in the horsehair and get the rosin in the hair, it can be a deeper, longer rosin experience.
Wow.
For the sound.
I need to remember that trick. I'd never heard that before.
So there's a new rosin maker that now just made a rosin comb, and I just bought one because I'm totally into it. So
Oh, I love it. I love it. Andy, thanks a lot for talking with us. But before I let you go, I want you to folks to know about your other side of your career, which is teaching. How did you get into teaching? Was it your first aspiration before becoming a professional violinist in an orchestra, or was it the other way around?
I think that I was very fortunate that I've had phenomenal teachers, really phenomenal pedagogues that worked with me from the very beginning. And so that's all I've ever known are being in violin lessons with people that knew how to teach. And I actually started teaching when I was about 12 or 13.
Oh,
And it was my mom said, you know what, there's a neighbor kid that needs a little help with their practice. Can you practice with them? And so it's always felt very comfortable to me.
okay.
When I was 19, I was, my second year of my undergraduate degree out in Los Angeles, and I had a full studio of 20 students.
Are you
And
kidding?
I've always taught. And even right out of my master's degree, my first job was with the Harrington String Quartet up in Amarillo, but I was on the faculty of Amarillo College and West Texas A&M University when I was, 25 years old. So
You've had a full career teaching already. By the time you had entered in as a professional violinist, you were already teaching others.
but I've always performed. And so I feel like it's just part of what we need to do is give back somehow. And I think also I was a very musical player, but I had a lot of technical things that needed to be figured out in my playing. And I had patient teachers that helped me. And so since I've had to work through things, I think I'm pretty good at explaining how to fix things.
That's really a remarkable talent to be able to do that, because it is an aural, AURAL skill that we are learning, and yet we have to articulate to our students what we want changed, what they're not doing that's not optimal, that they're doing that's not optimal. How do we fix that?
Yeah.
Any tips for other teachers and helping their students?
Well, one thing that I still find strange is that from sixth grade until I graduated with my undergraduate, that's a long time.
Yes, it is.
My teachers did not pick up their violins in lessons.
Oh. So
They
you
didn't.
weren't modeling.
They were not modeling. They were verbally explaining. And there was something about that. There are two basic ways of learning. One is imitation, and the other one is through analysis and trial and error. And so I feel that I use both ways in my teaching right now. I will definitely demonstrate because some people learn better that way.
Yeah.
And then yet I feel that it's very important to be able to describe exactly in the smallest unit possible what is the easiest step for the student to make progress one step at a time, not giving too much too soon or too little. It's a balance.
Fascinating. You have other career activities. I mean, you do something every summer, right? Where is that?
Yeah, I teach at 4 different festivals.
4.
And so one is in Northwest Arkansas,
Okay.
and it's a brand new festival called the Ozark Festival.
And that's the remains of the old Hot Springs Music
Right.
Festival, right? And
Right.
that's all moved up to Fayetteville.
That's right.
Okay.
And so this will be its first summer. I'm very excited about it.
That's great.
And then after that, I'll be at the Texas Tech Band and Orchestra Camp
Right here
here
in Lubbock.
in Lubbock. And then I'll be going to Vipiteno, Italy to teach at the Orfeo Festival.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry for you.
If anyone wants to come with me, that's fine. And then after that, I run a festival in Colorado called the Lake City Violin Intensive. And that's a festival that's in its 8th summer that I founded in Lake City, Colorado.
And so that's yours. That's your
Yes.
baby. Okay.
Yes.
So for people listening in Lubbock, they have a young violin student. How would they join the Texas Tech Band and Orchestra Camp?
So if you go to the Texas Tech School of Music website, there should be a link right there. And it's for kids that I believe are in 6th grade through 12th grade.
Great. Okay. Well, hopefully some folks will find that on the website. Annie, it's been such a pleasure getting to speak with you and learn more about being a concertmaster and a violin teacher. We just love having you in the orchestra. You're just such a great leader for us. And so please accept my appreciation for all of your hard work. This last season was amazing, and I think that a lot of that is due to your leadership. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
And for everybody listening, this is a great edition of Clef Notes on Classical 105.7. I'm Galen Wixson, President and CEO, and I'm looking forward to our next installment.